A seat in first class costs $1,000. A single phone call costs $700 million. When 28-year-old tech billionaire Serena Marshall, wearing a simple hoodie, was ordered off a transatlantic airways flight, the lead flight attendant, Mark Jenkins, thought he was just removing riffraff. He sneered as he watched security escort her off the plane. But what he didn't know was that Serena wasn't just a passenger. She was the only passenger that mattered. And as the plane door shut, Serena made one call. It wasn't to a lawyer, it was to her CFO. And with 9 simple words, she didn't just freeze the airline's assets, she seized their entire future. The first-class lounge at JFK's Terminal 4 was a study in beige and muted chrome. It smelled of stale coffee and expensive nervous energy. Serena Marshall sat in a corner alcove, her back to the window overlooking the grey tarmac. She wore a black Stanford engineering hoodie, distressed denim jeans, and a pair of high-end, noise-cancelling headphones that were currently silent. She wasn't listening to music, she was using them to buy peace. At 28, Serena was the founder and CEO of AuraConnect, a biotech AI firm that had quietly become the backbone of predictive diagnostics for the next generation. Her net worth, according to the recent Forbes valuation, hovered around $14.2 billion. To the room, however, she was invisible. Or worse, a smudge on their exclusive lens. She was just trying to get to London for the Global Tech Forum. She wasn't a keynote speaker. She'd refused. She was attending to finalize the single largest acquisition of her career, the $700 million purchase of Horizon Transatlantic Airways, TAA, fledgling travel tech division. It was a strategic move, merging her biotech data with their global logistics network. The wire transfer was scheduled to clear the moment she landed. A woman in a stiff, beige blazer and a string of oily-looking pearls paused by Serena's seat. The woman, who looked to be in her late 60s, sniffed loud enough for Serena to hear it over her own thoughts. "Can I help you?" Serena asked, sliding her headphones down around her neck. The woman, whose name tag on her Louis Vuitton carry-on read Karen Chadsworth, looked down her nose. "This area," she said, gesturing vaguely, "is reserved for first-class and platinum members. The gate for standard economy is down the hall." Serena blinked, processing the audacity. "My ticket is 1A, she said, her voice flat. "Is there a problem?" Karen's thin lips pressed into a judgmental line. "It's just that standards are slipping. People bring their personal items." She glanced at Serena's simple canvas backpack and treat the lounge like a public park. Serena felt the familiar, hot prickle of exhaustion. It wasn't anger anymore. It was just a profound weariness. She had spent the last 72 hours in a sterile data room with engineers from Airbus, finalizing schematics for biometric integration. She hadn't slept. She didn't have the energy for this. "My bag fits the carry-on requirements, ma'am. Have a nice flight." Serena slid her headphones back on. The gesture of dismissal was clear. Karen Chadsworth huffed, the sound rattling her pearls, and stalked off toward the espresso bar to complain to the staff. Serena closed her eyes, trying to center herself. She just needed to get on the plane. She just needed to sleep. She felt the vibration of her work phone, a heavy, encrypted model she kept separate. A text from her CFO, David Chen. "Wire is staged. 700 $, ready to execute on your landed signal. Good luck, boss," she texted back. "See you on the other side." Now boarding Transatlantic Airways Flight 101 to London, beginning with our first-class passengers in Zone 1. Serena stood, stretching her back. She slung her backpack over one shoulder and joined the short line. Karen Chadsworth was 2 people ahead of her, already handing her passport to the gate agent. When Serena stepped up, The gate agent, a tired-looking woman named Maria, smiled weakly. "Passport and boarding pass, please." Serena handed them over. Maria scanned the pass. Beep. The light turned green. "Thank you, Miss Marshall. Seat 1A. Enjoy your—" Maria paused, looking up. She glanced at Karen, who was lingering nearby, watching. She glanced back at Serena. "Is there a problem?" Serena asked. No, Maria said, too quickly. "It's just 1A. Right. Enjoy your flight." Serena nodded and walked down the jet bridge. She could feel Karen Chadsworth's eyes burning into her back. The chill of the jet bridge was a relief, but as she stepped onto the plane, the atmosphere changed. The air inside the cabin was thick with artificial rose petal scent and the sharp, anxious smile of the lead flight attendant. His name tag read, Mark Jenkins. He was tall, with perfectly coiffed silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Welcome to first class," he said, his voice a smooth, practiced monotone. His eyes flicked over Serena's hoodie, down to her jeans, and back up. His smile tightened, becoming a chemical grimace. "May I see your boarding pass again?" Serena sighed internally. "Again?" "It's policy, Mom. Just verifying our premium cabin manifest." She handed it to him. He held it for a beat too long, as if expecting the QR code to suddenly confess it was a forgery. 1A, right this way." He didn't offer to take her jacket. He didn't point out the features of the seat. He just gestured and turned away to greet Karen Chadsworth, who had arrived behind Serena. "Mrs. Chadsworth, a pleasure to have you back," Mark gushed. "May I get you a pre-departure glass of champagne, or perhaps our mimosa?" "Oh, Mark, you're a lifesaver," Karen cooed. "Champagne. It's been a trying morning." She shot a pointed look at Serena's back. Serena ignored them both, sliding into the luxurious pod of seat 1A. It was a $10,000 seat, and she felt like she was trespassing. She stowed her backpack, the one containing the encrypted hard drive holding the entire future of Aura Connect's new division, and sat down. She just wanted to sleep, but she knew, with a sinking, cold certainty, that sleep was the last thing she was going to get. The first-class cabin slowly filled. The tension was a low hum beneath the engines. Mark Jenkins was a whirlwind of practiced charm, but only for certain passengers. He refilled Karen Chadsworth's glass twice. He laughed heartily at a joke from a man in a Brioni suit in 2D. When he passed Serena's seat, his face became a mask of professional neutrality. "Ma'am," he said, stopping. Serena looked up. "Yes?" "I'll need you to place your personal item in the overhead compartment. It cannot be at your feet for takeoff." Serena looked down at her small canvas backpack. "It's under the ottoman, well clear of the aisle. It's standard procedure." "On my aircraft," Jenkins replied, his voice dropping slightly. "The policy is that all items must be in the overhead bin. It clutters the cabin." "It's a $10,000 suite," Serena said, her patience wearing thin. "The entire point is the storage space. I've flown this route a dozen times. It's fine where it is." Karen Chadsworth, from 2B, leaned into the aisle. "Mark, she's arguing with you. Can't you see? If she can't follow simple rules, maybe she's not fit for this cabin." The man in the Brioni suit, Robert Miller, a corporate lawyer, looked over. "For goodness sake, Karen, leave the girl alone. Mark, her bag is fine." "You know it is." Mark Jenkins's neck flushed red. Being corrected by another passenger, especially one he'd been fawning over, was an intolerable offense. He directed all his newfound rage at Serena. "Ma'am," he said, his voice now sharp and cold. "My instruction was not a suggestion. Put the bag up, now, or we will have a serious problem." Serena looked at him. She saw the prejudice, the petty power trip, the desperate need to enforce an imaginary hierarchy. She knew this script. She had lived this script. "Fine," she said. She stood, retrieved her bag, and placed it in the empty bin above her seat. She sat back down. "Happy?" "Compliance is not about happiness, Mom. It's about safety and respect." He stared at her, waiting for her to break eye contact. She didn't. He finally huffed and turned away. A few minutes later, the cabin door was sealed. The captain, Anne Price, came on the intercom. "Good morning. This is Captain Price. Welcome aboard TAA 101. We're just waiting for our final clearance from the tower. Cabin crew, please prepare for takeoff." Serena pulled out her personal phone to send a quick text to her mother. "Boarded. Love you." Before she could even type, Jenkins was there, leaning over her, his face inches from hers. "Mom, I told you about the phone. We are on an active taxiway." "We're not," Serena said, holding up the phone. "Airplane mode is on. I'm just connecting to the pre-takeoff Wi-Fi to send a text. It's TAA's own advertised service." "I don't care what the service is. You are to put that phone away," he hissed. He was genuinely angry now. This wasn't policy. This was a power struggle. "I am putting it away," Serena said, sliding it into her pocket. "But your tone is unprofessional." That was the word. The trigger. "My tone?" Jenkins snapped, loud enough for the front half of the cabin to hear. "You are being disruptive, argumentative, and non-compliant. I have had enough of your attitude." "My attitude?" Serena stood up, slowly. She was 5'7", but in that moment, she felt 10 feet tall. "I have complied with every instruction, including the ones you invented. The only person being disruptive, Mr. Jenkins, is you. You've singled me out since the moment I stepped on this plane. Now, I am going to sit here, sleep, and I expect not to be harassed by you again. Are we clear?" The cabin was dead silent. Karen Chadsworth gasped, a theatrical sharp intake of breath. "Oh my word, she's threatening him. She's threatening the crew. Mark, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe with her on this plane." Mark Jenkins's eyes lit up. He had his out. "She's a security risk," he said, his voice ringing with false righteousness. "She's hostile." Robert Miller, the lawyer, stood up. "That is an absolute lie, Mark. I am watching this entire exchange. This woman has been perfectly calm. You are the one harassing her. You and Mrs. Chadsworth." Jenkins ignored him. He picked up the intercom phone. "Captain Price, this is Lead Purser Jenkins. We have a code 3 in 1A, a hostile, non-compliant passenger. I am requesting we return to the gate. I need Port Authority police to meet the aircraft." Serena's blood ran cold. Code 3. He was accusing her of being a physical threat. This was no longer about a bag or a phone. This was about her freedom. "Mark, don't do this," Mr. Miller warned, his lawyer voice kicking in. "You are making a career-ending mistake. This is blatant discrimination." "Sit down, sir, or you'll be next," Jenkins snarled. The engines, which had been revving for takeoff, spooled down. The plane, which had just begun to taxi, stopped. Captain Price's voice came over the speaker, hard as steel. "This is the captain. We are returning to the gate due to a security issue in the cabin. Please remain seated." Karen Chadsworth smirked, a venomous, triumphant little smile. Serena Marshall just sat down in Type 1A. She didn't plead. She didn't cry. She just watched as the man who had served champagne to her tormentor sealed his own fate. She was no longer tired. She was calculating. The taxi back to the gate was the longest 15 minutes of Serena's life. The silence in the cabin was suffocating, broken only by the muttering of passengers and the occasional sniffle from Karen Chadsworth, who was performing her role as victim with theatrical flair. Mark Jenkins stood at the front of the cabin, arms crossed, a sentinel of his own petty kingdom. Serena stared straight ahead. She was compartmentalizing. Fact 1. She was being removed from a flight based on a false report. Fact 2. The report was racially motivated, initiated by Chadsworth, and escalated by Jenkins. Fact 3. The $700 million acquisition of Horizon was contingent on her arrival in London. Fact 4. The entire deal, which TAA's parent company, TAA Global Holdings, desperately needed to stay solvent, was now in jeopardy. Jenkins, she realized, had no idea he wasn't just kicking off a passenger. He was dynamiting the financial bedrock of the company that paid his salary. The irony was so bitter it almost made her laugh. The plane docked at the gate with a heavy, final thud. A moment later, 2 Port Authority police officers appeared at the door. One was older, with a weary face. The other was young, alert, his hand resting near his sidearm. "Mr. Jenkins?" the older officer, Officer Hale, asked. "Yes, officer. The passenger is in 1A. Jenkins pointed, his finger trembling slightly with adrenaline. "She has been hostile, non-compliant with crew instructions, and threatened me directly. We believe she is a security risk." Officer Hale looked at Serena. He saw a young woman in a hoodie, sitting perfectly still. He looked at Robert Miller, who was shaking his head in disgust. He looked at Karen Chadsworth, who was dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. "Ma'am," Officer Hale said, his voice respectful but firm. "I need you to gather your belongings and come with us. Please." "I have done nothing wrong, officer," Serena said, her voice clear and strong. It didn't shake. "I am being removed under false pretenses. I want your name and badge number, and his." She nodded at Jenkins. "My name is Officer Hale, badge 4420. This is Officer Chen," he said. "We can discuss this on the jet bridge. Right now, you have to deplane. The airline has the right to refuse service." "I understand," Serena said. She stood up. The entire first-class cabin was staring. The business-class passengers behind them were standing, craning their necks. She opened the overhead bin and retrieved her backpack. She slung it over one shoulder. As she walked into the aisle, Karen Chadsworth recoiled, pulling her feet in as if Serena were contaminated. "Get her out of here," Karen whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Serena paused and looked directly at Karen Chadsworth. "You should have just minded your own business," she said. Not as a threat, but as a statement of fact. She then looked at Mark Jenkins. He had a look of profound, smug satisfaction on his face. It was the look of a small man who had won a small victory. "Mr. Jenkins," Serena said, "I want you to remember this moment." "Get off my plane," he snapped. Serena turned and walked. With Officer Hale in front and Officer Chen behind, she took the walk of humiliation down the aisle, through the galley, and out the aircraft door. The whoosh of the jet bridge air felt cold on her hot face. As soon as she was off the plane, the jet bridge door was pulled shut behind her. The sound of the latch clicking into place was deafening. "Okay," Officer Hale said, his demeanor softening slightly now that they were out of view. "What the hell was that really about?" "It was about a flight attendant and a passenger who didn't like the color of my skin in their first-class cabin," Serena said. "The flight attendant, Mark Jenkins, manufactured a series of violations, my bag, my phone, and when I called him unprofessional, he and the other passenger, Karen Chadsworth, conspired to label me a security risk." Officer Chen was taking notes. "Did you threaten him?" "No. I told him I expected not to be harassed. He interpreted that as a threat." Robert Miller, the lawyer, suddenly appeared at the end of the jet bridge, holding his briefcase. "Officers, I need to make a statement," he yelled, hustling towards them. "I am Robert Miller. I'm an attorney with Sullivan and Cromwell. I was in seat 2D. I witnessed the entire thing. Your suspect did nothing. She was polite, calm, and composed. The flight attendant, Mark Jenkins, was the aggressor. He was baiting her. The woman in 2B, Karen Chadsworth, was his accomplice. This is a disgrace. I am getting off this plane. I will not fly with a crew that does this. Officer Hale looked at Miller, then at Serena. Ma'am, the airline is still refusing you service. We can't force them to let you back on, but you are not under arrest. You are free to go. Thank you, officers. Thank you, Mr. Miller, Serena said. Give me your card, Miller said to Serena. I'll be a witness in your lawsuit. This is the definition of arbitrary and capricious denial of service. TAA is going to pay for this. Serena pulled a card from her wallet. It didn't say CEO, it just said Serena Marshall and a single private phone number. Thank you, she said, but I don't think a lawsuit will be necessary. She turned and walked away from the gate, back into the terminal. Miller and the officers stared after her, confused. She walked past the duty-free, past the crowded food court, until she found a quiet departure gate that was empty. She sat down, her back to the wall. The adrenaline was fading, leaving a cold, sharp clarity. She looked at her watch. 9:30 a.m. She pulled out her work phone, the heavy, encrypted one. She scrolled to one number, David Chen, CFO. She pressed call. David Chen picked up on the first ring. He was in Aura Connect's Manhattan headquarters, a gleaming tower of glass and recycled steel, surrounded by financial monitors. Serena? You should be in the air. Is everything okay? Serena took a deep breath. David, it's me. I'm fine. I'm still at JFK. What? What happened? Was the flight cancelled? David's mind immediately went to logistics. I can get the Gulfstream G700 fueled and to JFK in 90 minutes. But you'll be late for the London dinner. It's not the flight, David, Serena said, her voice devoid of all emotion. I was removed from the plane. The line was silent for 3 full seconds. David Chen, a man who managed a $40 billion portfolio, was speechless. Removed, he finally whispered. As in, arrested? No, not arrested. Removed. A flight attendant and another passenger decided I didn't belong in first class. They manufactured a confrontation. They labeled me a security threat. David's voice changed. The concern was gone, replaced by a cold, precise anger. Who? What airline? Transatlantic Airways. TAA Flight 101. The lead purser was Mark Jenkins. The passenger was Karen Chadsworth. TAA, David said. The name hung in the air. The airline they were in the process of saving. The airline whose Horizon Tech division was the entire reason for this trip. The $700 million, he said. The $700 million, Serena confirmed. What do you want to do, boss? David asked. There was no hesitation in his voice. Do you want me to call J.P. Morgan Chase and put a compliance hold on the wire? No, Serena said. She watched as a different flight crew walked past her gate, laughing and pulling their roll-on bags. They looked happy. A hold is temporary, Serena continued. A hold is a negotiating tactic. This is not a negotiation. What are you saying? Serena stood up and walked to the window. She could see Flight 101, her flight, still sitting at the gate, motionless. David, she said, I want you to execute the following 9 words. Call the bank. Now. Give them to me, Serena said, her voice as clear and cold as the glass she was staring through. Recall the wire. Kill the deal. Issue the press release. David didn't even pause. Recall. Kill. Release. Done. What's the breach clause we're using? He asked. Use Section 4.1b of the contract, Serena said, her mind a steel trap of legal ease. The material adverse change clause. cite a catastrophic failure in corporate governance and a breach of public accommodation ethics, leading to a complete loss of faith in the TAA brand and management structure. "That's aggressive," David said, a hint of admiration in his voice. "That's a nuke clause, Serena. If we pull that $700 million, their Q4 financing evaporates. The Airbus A350 order they're counting on. It defaults. They won't just be embarrassed. They'll be facing insolvency." "I know," Serena said. "They made their choice. Now I'm making mine." "Consider it done," David said. "I'm calling James Harrison at the New York Times right after I call the bank. What do I tell him?" "Tell him the truth," Serena said. "Tell him tech billionaire Serena Marshall, founder of Aura Connect, was racially profiled and forcibly removed from TAA Flight 101. Tell him that as a direct result, Aura Connect has terminated its $700 million acquisition of TAA's Horizon division. He'll have the story of his career." "God," David said. "They have no idea what they've done." "They're about to," Serena said. "I'll text you when I'm on my way to London." "On your way? How?" "Call the jet, David. Fuel it up. I'll be there in an hour." She hung up. She sat back down. For a moment, she did nothing. She just breathed. The anger was gone. The humiliation was gone. All that was left was the quiet, humming power of consequence. On the tarmac, she saw a baggage cart drive away from Flight 101. A new ground crew was approaching. The flight was already hopelessly delayed, but the passengers and crew on that plane, still waiting to take off, had no idea. They thought they were just waiting for a new flight plan. They were wrong. They were waiting for an explosion. In the 40th floor boardroom of TAA Global Holdings in Dallas, Texas, CEO Richard Thorne was celebrating. He was a big man with a ruddy face and a booming voice, a classic, back-slapping Texas executive. He was holding a glass of champagne, surrounded by his board. "To Horizon," he boomed, "and to Aura Connect, this $700 million deal, ladies and gentlemen, isn't just a sale. It's our resurrection. It clears our debt. It finalizes the Airbus order. And it puts TAA back in the black for the first time in 6 years." His CFO, a perpetually nervous man named Alan Joyce, was staring at his phone. His face was a sickly grey. "Richard," Alan whispered, his voice trembling. "Not now, Alan. We're toasting." Richard laughed. "Richard, now," Alan snapped, standing up. The room went silent. "What is it?" Richard's smile faded. "It's JP Morgan Chase," Alan said, reading the email alert. "The wire. The $700 million, it's been recalled." The champagne glass slipped from Richard Thorne's hand and shattered on the polished mahogany table. "What? What do you mean, recalled? That's impossible. It's a staged wire. It can't be recalled without a catastrophic breach." Alan's phone buzzed again, and again, and again. It was the financial news alerts. "Alan, what's happening?" Alan looked up, his eyes wide with pure, unadulterated terror. "It's the New York Times. James Harrison. The story just broke." He read the headline aloud. "Aura folds Horizon. Tech billionaire Serena Marshall pulls $700 million TAA deal, citing racial profiling on flagship flight." The blood drained from Richard Thorne's face. Serena Marshall. Serena Marshall. Why do I know that name? She's the founder of Aura Connect. She's the one we've been negotiating with for 6 months, Richard, Alan shrieked. My God, she was on a TAA flight. Thorne grabbed his own phone and speed-dialed his head of operations. "Find me TAA Flight 101, JFK to London. Who is the captain? Get me Captain Price on the sat phone, now!" He turned back to his CFO. "Recall, $700 million, because of what?" A flight attendant? Are you telling me my entire company has just been bankrupted by a flight attendant? Alan was reading from the article. It says, Ms. Marshall was forcibly removed from Flight 101 by airport police after a lead flight attendant, identified as Mark Jenkins, and another passenger, Karen Chadsworth, allegedly accused Miss Marshall of being a security threat. Aura Connect has cited a catastrophic failure in corporate governance and pulled all funds. The boardroom was in chaos. Board members were shouting, demanding answers. "Get me the JFK station manager," Thorne roared. "Get me the president. Get me the Pope. Find Serena Marshall. Find her. And ground that plane. Ground that plane." The TAA stock, which had been climbing all morning in anticipation of the deal, was instantly halted by the NYSE. When it reopened for pre-market trading, the ticker simply read, "Error, 99.9%. The $700 million hadn't just been frozen. It was gone, recalled to Aura Connect's accounts. The deal was dead. And with it, Transatlantic Airways, all because Mark Jenkins didn't like a passenger's hoodie. Back on Flight 101, the passengers were growing mutinous. They had been sitting on the plane, at the gate, for over an hour since Serena was removed. "What is going on?" someone shouted from business class. "This is ridiculous." Mark Jenkins was hiding in the galley, avoiding the angry stares. He was starting to sweat. This was no longer a simple removal. This delay was costing a fortune. Karen Chadsworth was complaining. "My connection in London. I'm going to miss it. This is unacceptable." Robert Miller, the lawyer who had deplaned, had been right. He was standing at the gate, talking to the gate agent, Maria, when a new woman stormed up. This was Brenda Scully, the JFK station manager for TAA. Her face was paper white, and her hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold her radio. "Where is she?" Brenda demanded, her voice a high-pitched squeak. "Who?" Maria asked. "Serena Marshall, the passenger from 1A. Where is she?" She left," Maria said. "The officers let her go. Why? What's going on?" Brenda looked at the plane, then at Maria, then at Mr. Miller. "You," she said to Miller. "You were on the plane. You saw what happened?" "I did," Miller said, crossing his arms. "And I'm filing a formal complaint. It was the worst case of racial profiling I've ever seen." Brenda's radio crackled. It was the voice of TAA's CEO, Richard Thorne, patched through from Dallas, his voice so loud it distorted the speaker. "Scully, did you find her? Is she on the plane?" "No, sir. She's gone. She left the terminal," Brenda cried into the radio, tears of panic in her eyes. "Then find her!" Thorne roared. "Shut down the terminal. Check every lounge. Check every bathroom. That woman is holding the future of this entire company in her hands, and you let her walk away." On the plane, Captain Ann Price's personal cell phone rang. It was an executive VP of flight operations. She listened for 30 seconds, her face hardening with every word. "I see," she said. She hung up. She emerged from the cockpit, walked into the first-class cabin, and strode directly to Mark Jenkins in the galley. "Mr. Jenkins," she said. Her voice was ice. "Yes, Captain? Are we finally getting a new takeoff slot?" he asked, trying to sound cheerful. "No, we're not," Captain Price said. "You, Mr. Jenkins, just bankrupted this airline." "What? What are you talking about? The woman you removed from 1A? Her name is Serena Marshall. She's the CEO of Aura Connect, the company that was in the process of wiring this airline $700 million, a deal that is now, as of 10 minutes ago, dead." Mark Jenkins's knees buckled. He literally grabbed the galley counter to hold himself up. No. She was just she was wearing a hoodie. She was our most important passenger in TAA history, Captain Price said. And you kicked her off the plane. For a backpack. Karen Chadsworth, who had been listening from her seat, covered her mouth. Oh my goodness. A billionaire. Captain Price rounded on her. And you, Mrs. Chadsworth. Your name is also in the New York Times article. As the instigator. TAA Legal will be in touch. I imagine you'll be hearing from Ms. Marshall's lawyers, too. Captain Price grabbed the intercom. This is Captain Price. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. This flight is cancelled. A roar of anger went up from the cabin. Due to the gross misconduct of a member of the cabin crew, this aircraft is grounded. Everyone must deplane. Immediately. She strode back to the cockpit. Mark Jenkins was hyperventilating in the galley. Mark, Captain Price said, without looking at him, get your things. You are relieved of duty, effective immediately. Captain, Anne, please, he begged. Don't, you're done. Get off my aircraft. Serena was in the Orion private lounge, a discreet, high-end service for private jet travelers on the other side of the airport. She had just finished a glass of water when Brenda Scully, the TAA station manager, burst in, followed by two shell-shocked TAA executives in suits. "Ms. Marshall!" Brenda cried, her voice cracking. She looked like she was about to be physically ill. Serena looked up from her phone. "Yes? Can I help you?" I am Brenda Scully. I'm the station manager for Transatlantic Airways." Brenda was visibly wringing her hands. "Ms. Marshall, there has been a profound, a terrible misunderstanding." "No, I don't think there was," Serena said calmly. "I think what happened was perfectly clear. Your employee, Mark Jenkins, racially profiled me. Your passenger, Karen Chadsworth, enabled him, and your airline endorsed it by removing me." "Mr. Jenkins has been fired." One of the executives, a VP of customer experience named Harrison, blurts out. "Fired. On the spot. His employment with TAA is terminated. Mrs. Chadsworth has been banned for life from all TAA flights and our partner airlines." "That's a start," Serena said, taking a sip of water. "But it doesn't solve my problem, or yours." "Ms. Marshall," Brenda pleaded, "our CEO, Mr. Richard Thorne, is on this iPad. He is begging to speak with you. Begging." Brenda held out an iPad. On the screen was Richard Thorne, his face purple with stress, his hair a mess. He was in his Dallas boardroom, the broken champagne glass still visible on the table. "Ms. Marshall?" Thorne's booming voice was now a desperate rasp. "Ms. Marshall, I don't have words. On behalf of 30,000 TAA employees, I am offering my most profound, absolute, and unreserved apology. What happened to you it's unconscionable. It is not who we are." "It is exactly who you are, Mr. Thorne," Serena said, her voice cutting through the speaker. "It's who you are when you think no one is watching. You hire men like Mark Jenkins. You reward bias. You create an environment where a passenger like Karen Chadsworth feels empowered to harass another human being. Your company culture is a liability." I agree. "We will fix it," Thorne said. "I will personally oversee it. We will do a top-to-bottom audit. Whatever you want. New training, new policies. Anything." "That's good," Serena said. "So, the deal?" Thorne asked, his voice cracking. "The Horizon deal. Serena, please. That $700 million, it's our lifeline. Without it, we're done. We file for Chapter 11 by Friday. Please, I am on my knees here." Serena looked at the desperate, powerful man on the screen. She thought about the smirk on Mark Jenkins's face. She thought about the humiliation of being paraded through the cabin. "The deal is dead, Mr. Thorne," she said. Thorne visibly deflated. But... "The deal as it was is dead," Serena continued. "My $700 million is back in my bank." However, I am still a businesswoman, and the Horizon tech is still valuable. I am willing to reopen negotiations. A spark of hope flashed in Thorne's eyes. Anything. We'll give you a discount. 10% off? 630 million? Serena laughed. A short, sharp, humorless sound. You don't understand, she said. You are in no position to offer me anything. I am in a position to offer you survival. The price is no longer $700 million. Thorne's face fell. More? We don't have... No, not more money, Serena said. More accountability. Serena stood up, the movement full of a sudden, coiled energy that made everyone in the room flinch. Brenda Scully and the two executives took an involuntary step back. On the iPad, Richard Thorne leaned forward, his eyes wide, sensing the executioner's blade. Serena began to pace the quiet lounge, her footsteps silent on the plush carpet. She wasn't angry anymore. This wasn't emotion, it was finance. It was a hostile takeover, executed not in a boardroom, but in a private jet lounge. You are all here asking me to save you, she began, her voice calm and lethally precise. You're apologizing, you're firing people, you're offering me private jets. You're trying to buy my forgiveness. But you're approaching this all wrong. You see, Mr. Thorne, she looked directly at the iPad. You think I'm the one who lost something today. I didn't. I lost a few hours. You're about to lose a 30 Founders employee company. The deal as we knew it is dead. Ms. Marshall, Serena, please, Thorne rasped. There must be a way. The deal, the Horizon tech, it's useless to us without you. It's built on your platform. We need you. Oh, I know you do, Serena said. You need my money, you need my platform, and you need my silence. But you will not get all three. I am still a businesswoman. The Horizon tech is still valuable. So I am willing to reopen negotiations. But these are not negotiations. This is a list of my terms for your unconditional surrender. You will accept them all right now, or I will board my jet, and you can call your bankruptcy lawyers from the air. She stopped pacing and held up one finger. 1. The purchase price. We agreed on $700 million, a fair market valuation. Thorne nodded vigorously. Yes. And we can offer a discount, a significant 10%, $70 million discount for your trouble. Serena let out a short, sharp laugh that was completely devoid of humor. A discount? You think this is a negotiation? You're in no position to offer me anything. The new purchase price for the Horizon division and all its assets is $1. On the iPad, Alan Joyce, the TAA CFO, who was standing next to Thorne, looked like he'd been shot. He collapsed into a chair. $1? That's illegal. It's theft. No, Serena snapped, her voice like a whip. It's a bargain. Because 2. You're going to take that $700 million you just saved, the $700 million that was supposed to save your company, and you are going to give it away. This time, even Thorne choked. Give it away? To who? Not to anyone, Serena corrected. You're going to fund something. You will place that entire $700 million principal into an independently managed, ironclad escrow account. We will call it the TAA Justice and Opportunity Fund. It will be its own entity. You will not control it. Your board will not touch it. I will. Brenda Scully, in the room with Serena, was now openly weeping, her hand over her mouth. 3. The purpose of that fund, Serena continued, steamrolling their shock. It will be split in 2. The first $350 million will be used to create full, 4-year scholarships for Black and minority students at the top 5 aviation programs in the world: MIT, Caltech, Stanford, Georgia Tech, pilots, engineers, logistic managers, for the next 20 years. Your industry looks the way it does because it's populated by men like Mark Jenkins. We're going to fix that. We are going to change the face of your industry. You will fund your own replacement. 4. The other $350 million horse. She looked at Thorne. Her eyes narrowed. This is for you. It will be used to establish a new, independent, civilian oversight board for TAA. This board will have binding authority written into your new corporate charter to investigate and fire any employee at any level found to be engaging in discriminatory behavior. That includes flight attendants. That includes station managers. That includes C-suite executives. And my company, Aura Connect, will select the first 5 board members. This is... Thorne was gasping, his face a deep, unhealthy purple. You're taking my company. You're taking our money. And now you want to run it? No, Serena said. I'm making you accountable. You proved today you are incapable of governing yourselves. So I am providing the governance. Which brings me to 5. She walked over to the iPad, picked it up, and held it close to her face, so all Thorne could see was her unflinching gaze. TAA will issue a formal, public apology. Not a "we are sorry if anyone was offended" press release. A full-page, signed confession. You will admit to systemic bias. You will admit to failing me and failing the public. You will name Mark Jenkins and Karen Chadsworth. You will detail the creation of the Justice Fund and the Oversight Board. My PR team will write the copy. You, Richard Thorne, will sign it. And it will run, on your dime, in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the London Times. She set the iPad back down. The room was utterly silent, save for Brenda's quiet sobs. Serena. Ms. Marshall, this isn't an acquisition, Thorne whispered. A broken man. This is a public execution. This is a surrender. It is, Serena agreed, her voice flat. You put a Code 3 security threat on me, Mr. Thorne, for being a black woman in a hoodie. This is my Code 3 response. I am a billionaire, Mr. Thorne. I could have sued you. I could have bought your stock and fired your board. But this is better. This is justice. You don't just lose. You lose, and you pay to fix the very problem you created. She looked at her watch. You have 60 seconds to accept. After that, my offer for $1 reverts to $0, and I call James Harrison at the Times back with an update. Your choice. Thorne looked at his CFO. He looked at the terrified board members peeking in from the side of the camera. They were all nodding frantically. It was this, or annihilation by Friday. We accept, Richard Thorne whispered. We accept all terms. Good, Serena said, her tone devoid of any triumph. It was just a transaction. My legal team is already drafting the new contracts. They will be in your inbox before I'm in the air. I expect them signed, countersigned, and filed before my jet is over the Atlantic. With that, she tapped the end call button on the iPad, cutting off the CEO of Transatlantic Airways mid-syllable. Brenda Scully and the 2 executives were staring at her, their mouths open as if they had just witnessed a thunderbolt. Ms. Marshall, Brenda whispered, her voice trembling. Your original flight? Flight 101. It's officially cancelled. All the passengers they're furious. They're all trying to rebook at the gate. It's chaos. I know, Serena said. We have our flagship A350 here, one of the executives, Harrison, offered weakly. It's at gate 20. We can fly you to London. Just you. A private charter. Right now. Whatever you want. Serena was already slinging her canvas backpack over her shoulder, the one that started it all. No, Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I've already made other arrangements. As if on cue, a black Escalade pulled up on the tarmac just outside the private lounge doors. You have a good day, Brenda, Serena said, walking to the door. I truly hope you fix your company. You have $700 million reasons to do so. She walked out the door, down the private steps, and got into the Escalade. It pulled away, driving her across the tarmac, not to a commercial gate, but to where her own jet, a sleek, silver Gulfstream G700, was already fueled, its engines whining, ready to take her far away from this mess. The taxi back to the private aviation terminal was silent. Serena's black Escalade slipped past the baggage claim chaos of Terminal 4, a ghost in the airport's sprawling machinery. Within minutes, she was through a private security gate and standing on the tarmac in front of her Gulfstream G700. Its engines were already humming, a low, powerful thrum that vibrated in her chest. A flight attendant in a crisp, unmarked uniform greeted her at the stairs. Welcome aboard, Ms. Marshall. We have your preferred Earl Grey tea and the London briefing packets ready. Thank you, Emily, Serena said, her voice quiet. She stepped inside. The cabin was a whisper of beige Italian leather and polished teak. It was the antithesis of the TAA first-class cabin. It was quiet, it was private, and it was hers. She sat in her preferred window seat, took the offered glass of water, and buckled her belt. Cleared for taxi, Ms. Marshall, the pilot's voice came over the discreet intercom. We'll be wheels up in 10 minutes. As the G700 began its journey, it taxied past the commercial side of the airfield. It had to cross the main alleyway, and in doing so, it rolled directly past Gate 14. The scene below was one of complete pandemonium. The passengers from Flight 101 were spilling out of the jet bridge, their faces masks of confusion and fury. They were yelling at Maria and the other gate agents, who were backed against the wall, fielding a tidal wave of anger. Cancelled? What do you mean, cancelled? A man in a rumpled suit shouted. I have a meeting in London. Serena's eyes, sharp and analytic, scanned the crowd until they found the two architects of the chaos. Mark Jenkins was no longer on the plane. Captain Price had made him deplane first, before any of the passengers. He had to walk past his junior crew, who stared at him with a mixture of pity and contempt. He had stumbled into the terminal, dragging his roll-on bag, just as the first wave of angry passengers identified him. You! A man shouted, pointing. You're the one! You did this! You got that girl kicked off and now our flight is cancelled. A woman shrieked. Who the hell are you? Mark had pushed through them, his face white, and fled through an employees-only door. Serena's jet was now passing the tarmac-level employee exit. And there he was. He was sitting on a concrete barrier, his uniform cap crumpled in his hand. His silver hair was askew, his tie loosened. He looked broken. He was staring at the ground, a man who had just discovered the true, devastating weight of his own insignificance. He had built his entire identity on the petty authority of his uniform, on the power to decide who belonged. And in one catastrophic act of arrogance, he had pulled the pin on a grenade that had vaporized his job, his reputation, and the 30,000-employee company he worked for. As Serena's jet rolled past, its sleek silver fuselage reflecting the grey sky, he looked up. His eyes met the tinted window, though he couldn't see her. His face crumpled. It wasn't anger. It was the horrifying, soul-crushing realization of scale. He had picked a fight, not with a passenger, but with a global force. Then Serena looked back at the gate window. The scene there was even more satisfying. Karen Chadsworth was at the customer service desk, her face a blotchy, purple mask of rage. The string of oily-looking pearls around her neck looked like a garrote. What do you mean the next flight is tomorrow? She was screaming, slamming her Louis Vuitton carry-on onto the counter. I demand to be put on the next flight. I am a Platinum Executive member. I know Richard Thorne. Maria, the gate agent, who now knew the entire story and was high on the fumes of righteous justice, was typing slowly into her computer. She didn't look up. "Ma'am, as I've explained," Maria said, her voice bored and lethal, "your flight is cancelled. All subsequent TAA flights are—" She paused, experiencing system-wide delays. "There are no available seats." "Then book me on British Airways. Book me on Virgin. I have an Alliance membership," Karen shrieked. "I can't seem to do that," Maria said, tapping one more key. "It seems your platinum status has been revoked." "Revoked? Revoked! You can't do that!" "Oh, it's already done, ma'am," Maria said, finally looking up. Her eyes were cold. "And it also seems your name has been placed on the TAA permanent no-fly list for passenger misconduct and endangerment of crew. That ban is shared with our global alliance partners. You will not be flying British Airways, or Lufthansa, or Cathay. Not today. Not ever." The blood drained from Karen's face. The weapon she had wielded all her life, her status, her privilege, had just been melted down and reforged into her cage. The woman who lived to fly first class was now, effectively, grounded for life. "You'll have to book travel on another, non-affiliated airline, ma'am," Maria said, turning to the next person. "Now please step aside. You are holding up the line." Karen Chadsworth stood there, her mouth opening and closing, utterly speechless for the first time in her life. Serena's G700 turned onto the main runway. The pilot throttled the engines, and the jet surged forward, pressing her back into the plush leather. It lifted into the air with a grace the TAA A330 could only dream of, banking sharply over the Atlantic. Serena finally leaned her head back. She closed her eyes. The anger was gone. The humiliation had been processed and filed away. All that was left was a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. She didn't feel victorious. She felt tired. Tired of having to fight. Tired of a world that still demanded she prove her right to exist in spaces she had earned and could buy and sell 1,000 times over. Her work phone buzzed on the teak table, a text from David. She picked it up. Contracts signed, scanned, and filed. The 700 meters TAA Justice and Opportunity Fund is live. The Horizon tech is secure in our servers. Total cost, €1. A second text buzzed immediately after. P.S. You might want to watch the market. TAA stock didn't just halt. The exchange delisted it. They're filing for Chapter 11 and restructuring tonight, under the terms of our agreement. The news is calling it the Jenkins Incident. You didn't just freeze their assets, boss. You forced a hostile takeover using nothing but their own bigotry. Serena smiled. A small, tired, but very real smile. She looked out the window at the endless blue of the ocean stretching out below her. She hadn't started this war. She hadn't asked for this fight. But when they came for her, they forgot to ask who she was. They thought she was a target. They just learned that this target doesn't just shoot back. She owns the entire arsenal. She put the phone on silent, reclined her seat, and finally, as the coast of America disappeared behind her, she slept. And that's how a simple flight attendant's prejudice and one passenger's disgusting arrogance cost an airline its entire $700 million future. They thought they were just putting a difficult woman in her place. They learned they were picking a fight with a queen who owned the entire chessboard. The story of Serena Marshall reminds us that karma isn't always instant. But when it's corporate karma, it can be devastating. Mark Jenkins didn't just lose his job, he became the face of a corporate collapse. Karen Chadsworth didn't just miss her flight, she lost her privilege forever. What did you think of Serena's response? Was it too much, or was it exactly the hard lesson TAA needed to learn? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this story of justice, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to see it, and please subscribe to the channel for more stories where the powerful are held accountable.